Hi everybody, how's it going today? We got another cooking video for you. Today, again, my goal is to try and represent all the parts of Choose My Plate. I decided quesadillas would be a good way to do that. We just had Cinco de Mayo, so I have some leftover quesadilla ingredients in the household, and I'm going to show you how to whip one up. Please make sure you refer back to my chocolate mug cake video to see how to properly wash your hands. You also notice my hair is back. Today I did it bandana style, closed-toed shoes on, and clothing that isn't too baggy, rolled up sleeves. Okay, let's get started. So first thing is first, I have all my ingredients out and ready to go. I will also be using the electric griddle today, just like I did during my 3-way eggs video. I'm going to come over here and get my griddle turned on so it can preheat while I'm getting my quesadilla ingredients. Turn it about to 350 or so. All right, it's already starting up. First thing you need are some tortillas. Now, these are flour tortillas, not whole grain. Remember that you want to take a look at your ingredients list. Unfortunately, the first ingredient there is enriched flour. You can find whole wheat tortillas. I do recommend those, but these are the ones we have in the house, so these are the ones I'm going to use today. You don't necessarily need to use 2 of them. If you feel like this is too large, you can always build your quesadilla on 1/2 of the tortilla, fold it over, and make a half. I'm going to make a full one because I'll use the leftovers later. So I'm going to take my top out and just put it on top of the bag. First, on my tortilla, I'm going to start with the cheese. I bought a taco blend cheese from the store. Generally, I like to try and get low-fat dairy products, just as I recommend for the Choose My Plate guidelines. This is the full-fat cheese. The way you can tell if it's low-fat is you can buy the part skim. It'll say part skim somewhere on the front for you, which means it's made with some skim milk instead of all just whole milk. When you're putting cheese on, you don't want it to go all the way to the edge. You're going to have a little bit of a line, I would say maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, 1/4 of an inch, so that the cheese doesn't completely melt out onto your griddle. I'm going to pour a little pile and then press it out with my fingers. Again, I washed my hands for at least a minute, so I'm not too concerned about germs. Hopefully you remember that cheese is part of the dairy group of Choose My Plate, and it's very important that we get at least 3 servings of dairy a day for the calcium. Calcium helps with strong bones and healthy teeth. It's especially important for you teenagers because you need to absorb that calcium into your body and help with your growth. All right, now that we have that all set, you can build your quesadilla however you want. There's really no wrong way. As I'm thinking about Choose My Plate, I wanted to try and get a color variety of veggies today. So I have some chopped red onion here. I'm going to add that on top of my cheese. Beautiful, fresh ingredients with no food label because no food label is needed. If you get it from your farmer's market, you can talk to the people there about how they grow their vegetables. Excellent. Next, I'm going to use some corn. This was from a can, totally fine to do. I know it can be more cost effective to buy canned vegetables. It's a good idea if you're buying the canned vegetables to get the lower salt ones, low sodium. Also, make sure you check your cans before you purchase them. There shouldn't be any dents in your cans. All right. So we got some purple there. We got our white corn. Now I'm going to go with some black olives. Olives are a healthy fat, which is wonderful. I love black olives. You could use black olives, green olives, Kalamata. There's so many different types. If you don't like olives, keep on trying them. Sometimes it just takes a little while for your taste buds to change. There were definitely things that I did not like as a kid that I love now as an adult. Gonna throw a few more on there because they are my favorite. So again, color variety with fruits and vegetables because they give you different vitamins and minerals. Awesome. And now let's get our tomato ready. I'm going to give my hands a really quick rinse. Not because I'm worried about germs, but I just had olive juice on them. And I spilled some olive juice on my counter. Make sure you're doing everyone, including yourself, a favor and cleaning up as you go. And here's my tomato. Now, there's always so much controversy in the classroom. Miss Henry, is tomato a fruit or a vegetable? When you are in science class, you're going to talk about a tomato being a fruit. When we are in facts class, it's a vegetable because we're talking about it nutritionally. To get my tomato going, curled finger position when cutting, all right? And I'm going to hold my knife like this, nice and loose. I don't need to grip too tight. That actually gives me less control. So kind of nice and loose, making sure your knives are always sharp. If your knife is dull, it's more dangerous because you push more and you can slip and cut yourself. Cutting that in half. Then I'm going to de-seed it by just taking a spoon and pushing and popping the seeds right out of there. And now, curled finger position for cutting. I'm not going to use the chef's knife anymore. I'm going to switch over to a paring knife because I'll have more control. It's smaller, maybe a little too small for my liking, but it's the one I have in my house right now. Again, curled finger position. And I'm just going to very carefully slice one way and then dice the other. If it's your first time with a knife, feel free to just do one at a time. I very often see students try to go crazy with it because they'll watch a cooking show and they'll see a professional chef with a chef's knife go through all of them at one time. If that's going to be too dangerous for you, then take it nice and slow. And listen, I never strive for perfection in the kitchen. You just go at your own pace. You take your time. And the more you practice, the better you'll get as time goes on. So I have my nice diced tomatoes there. I don't need to use the whole thing. I can always sprinkle, I like to sprinkle a little salt on my tomatoes and just eat them plain like that. And look, we are building more colors. So the more colors I'm getting into my quesadilla, the more vitamins and nutrients I'm getting from these delicious, fresh foods. And now to add a little bit of protein. When we talk about proteins, most students always think of meat. Protein does not need to be meat. Protein can be your meat products, of course, so maybe your chicken or your beef, or you can also get, for vegetarians, beans and peas. For instance, black beans would be a fantastic addition to this, or maybe some garbanzo beans, chickpeas. And then what else could we add? Tofu. Tofu would be an excellent selection for those of you who are vegetarian or vegan. And then other protein foods would be nuts and seeds. So peanuts, maybe sunflower seeds. You wouldn't necessarily add that to a quesadilla, but I want you guys to realize that protein comes in a lot of different foods. It's not just meat. Today I do have some chicken. We cooked it in some taco seasoning, so it has a little bit of spice to it, and it's shredded. I'm just going to shred it even a little bit smaller and build that onto my quesadilla. So when we're talking about the parts that choose my plate, we have our grains. Our grains would be our tortilla. Even though it's not a whole grain, it is still a grain. Then we have our protein, which would be our chicken. We have our vegetables, which would be the corn, the onion, the tomato, and the olives. Olives are also going to be a healthy fat. And then we have our dairy group, which would be the cheese. You can find a lot of different types of salsas or taco sauces out there. I am a huge fan of verde sauce. It's made out of tomatillos. I'm going to squirt a little bit of that on top of my ingredients inside my quesadilla. It's nice and spicy. I like some spice. And then I'm going to take a little bit more cheese and add that on top. You do want to be kind of careful of your cheese intake. Again, a lot of fat going on in there, which is probably why I'm only going to eat about half this quesadilla. Now, because you guys are teenagers, you don't need to be as concerned about portion sizes. But what I do want you to be concerned with is what kind of foods are you getting with your portion sizes. So it's not necessarily about going on a diet or being skinny. I can't stand that kind of talk. But it's about, what am I fueling my body with? Am I fueling my body with healthy, good for me foods? Okay? So those are the things we want to think about. Not about being skinny. It's about being healthy. All right. You know what? Let's not play games here. Let's bring the plate over. That would be the smart thing to do. And then you can spray this with some cooking spray. I actually, because this is non-stick, don't see the need for extra oil. I have enough fat in my cheese. That's good enough for me. So I'm going to take my wrap, place it right onto my griddle, and then I'm going to get my spatula so I can flip it later. It'll probably take, I would say maybe 5 minutes on this side. It really depends on how crispy you like it. I like mine very crispy. I like there to be a crunch on the tortilla when I bite into it. You might like yours a little more soft. You could even do these in the microwave if you wanted to, all right? If you don't have an electric griddle at home, that's no problem at all. You, of course, could use a skillet. For instance, I have this cast iron skillet at home I like to use a lot. You could use a skillet right on the stove top. And if you're using the stove, I would say maybe start at a medium to low heat and then work your way up if you find it's not cooking or melting. Okay, so as I'm waiting for that to cook, I'm going to clean up a little bit here. Make sure that you clean up as you are cooking. It's really important to do that. If you were an owner of a restaurant, that's something that people would be coming through. You'd have inspectors coming through your restaurant and making sure that you were following all of the safety and sanitation guidelines. So that means that you're going to be packing items up and storing them properly in your refrigerator. Okay? So for instance, my cheese, while I'm waiting, I could take my cheese, pop it right back in my fridge, in my cheese drawer. Actually, here's a little tip for you as well. Shredded cheese. I know a lot of us are being conscious about budgets right now. Shredded cheese is way more expensive to buy in the grocery store than a block of cheese. You could buy a block of cheese and shred it yourself. So if you're thinking about your budget and you're saying, oh, Miss Henry, it's so hard to buy healthy foods because they can be more expensive. That is true, but you can find little tricks like this that will save you money in the long run. So buying a block of cheese and shredding it yourself is cheaper than buying the pre-shredded cheese. The less work the grocery store does for you, the more cost-effective your food will be. So there's a little grocery shopping tip for you. All right. Another grocery shopping tip is to make sure that you're shopping on the outer edges of the grocery store. That's where you're going to find more of the healthy, less processed ingredients. The inner areas are where you're going to find those things with these ingredients lists that are crazy long and maybe not as good for you. I'm going to keep those two out because I'll want them later. And then the tops to these are over here. My videographer was helping me set this up. My fiance, Nick. Everybody say, hi, Nick. Thanks so much for helping me video this. This is what my fifth YouTube video that I'm going to try and attempt. I really appreciate all of you who have subscribed to my channel and liked my channel. It's really awesome that we can all cook together and make these meals. It's nice to cook at home. All right, let's take a look at my quesadilla here. To give it a check, just simply go under with your spatula and give it a lift. Sometimes if you're not sure, you could even touch. Again, I like mine crispy. So you see the cheese is starting to melt. The cheese is on its way. I like mine crispy. I'm going to turn it up. Turn up that heat a little. Turn up the heat. Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll give that a little bit more and then I'll flip it in a second. Let's talk about sour cream. A lot of students get confused about sour cream, cream cheese, and butter. Even though they are dairy products, we cannot count them as part of the dairy group. They don't have enough calcium. So essentially, these are not healthy for you foods. Butter, cream cheese, sour cream. Which is why you notice I bought the light version. I love having sour cream on my taco, in my quesadilla, but I want to get the light version so that it's not as much fat and it's a little bit healthier for me. If you really want to talk about some healthy fat, another good option would be avocado. Actually, let's just chuck together some guacamole while we're waiting. How's that sound? Look at me working on the fly. When you buy avocados, you actually want them to be darker like this and kind of soft to the touch. It does get to a point where they could maybe be too soft. You want to try to get them right at the perfect point. And it just takes practice, like anything, learning when they might be good. And sometimes you cut them open, and this one is going a little bit overripe. But let's cut it through and see. Again, curled finger position. You want those fingers out of the way. I'm just going to slice through. There's a pit in the middle, so you'll see that. I didn't wash the outside of my avocado because I'm not going to be eating the skin. I did wash the outside of my tomato earlier. You just didn't see it. Oh, look, that looks excellent. Let's take it, squeeze it right into our bowl. You guys are going to watch the Food Network maybe, or a cooking show, and they do all of these wonderfully fancy things and cut the avocado a certain way and squeeze it out, or they always take the knife and pop it into the pit and pull it out. Listen, I'm just doing things the way that I feel comfortable, which is just squeezing it and letting all that pulp come out. And then I pull out the pit. You could even attempt to grow an avocado tree with that. Wouldn't that be cool? One of my friends tried to do that one time. It actually didn't work out very well. I think avocados are hard to grow in this area. But a trick that you can do with an avocado pit is save it and then put it inside your guacamole, and that's going to help keep it fresh longer. Guacamole goes bad real quick and gets brown very quickly, which is why I'm going to add some lemon juice to this. Or maybe I'll use lime because I have limes around. Let me check my quesadilla again now that I'm over here. Ooh, okay. This is looking golden. Sorry, Nick, I'm making you run all around. Okay, so look at that. Nice and golden. Give it a flipperoo. Woo! Awesome. Let that cook. Now, yeah, let's use some limes. That'd be great. When you use a lime, that one seems a little hard. Here we go. This one's a little better. Here's a trick for you. Lemons or limes. Roll them on the counter. That's going to release the juices and make it easier for you to squeeze the juice out. Curled fingers again. And there we go. This is going to prevent your guacamole from browning so quickly. And it's going to add a real nice, vibrant taste to this guacamole. Nothing better than some fresh juice. I wish you could smell it. It smells so good. Grabbing a fork. I'm just going to mash that up. Now, I ran out of garlic because we used it when I made guacamole the other day for our quesadillas. What I like to add to my guacamole: garlic, red onion, tomato, corn, a little bit of salt, either lemon or lime juice, and I think that's about it. You can actually find that recipe on fruitsandveggiesmorematters.org, I think is the website. I've made this with students in class before. I like it because a lot of people, like, look at that. No offense, but guacamole does not look very appetizing to a lot of people. When you add in the tomato and the corn and the red onion and the garlic, it adds more flavor. And for students who have always kind of been like, oh, Miss Henry, I hate guacamole, they end up liking this one way more because it has more to it than just avocado. So I'm going to take my leftover red onion and pop it in. Thank you, Nick. Look at that. I can add in the extra tomato pieces here. Let me just finish dicing them up. This tomato's a little softer than I would prefer. Notice how I have the flat side down. You always want the flat side down when you're cutting because it's going to make it easier and less slippery. Tomatoes can be difficult because that skin on the top can be slippery. So watch your fingers when you are cutting. Slow and steady generally wins the race. And let's take some of that corn. I mean, check out this meal. See how many vegetables we're getting? Vegetables. Okay, check that out. And a little bit of salt. Salt will add flavor. Most foods that we have in the American diet have too much salt. I'm just gonna go light because most people will dip a tortilla chip in that. And what does a tortilla chip have? Salt. And look at that. Boom. Really quick guacamole put together in what? 5 minutes? That's awesome. It's very easy to make healthy, good for you foods at home. It just takes a little bit of planning on your part, which I know can be difficult. Sometimes it seems so much easier to just drive through the drive-through, but you're really not doing yourself any favors or doing your body any favors. Your body is your home. If you don't take care of it, where will you live, right? Which means I hope you've all been getting outside today and doing some exercise. Take advantage of these gorgeous, gorgeous days. All right. Yep. That's crispy and golden on both sides. Notice when I'm flipping, I just kind of put my hand on the top so I can give it a flipperoo. Just be careful. Make sure you don't burn yourself. See that? And then all that cheese is melted. The ingredients are hot and steamy. Wonderful. So, turning off my griddle, unplugging, making sure I'm pulling on the plug, not the cord. Take my quesadilla, slide it onto my plate. And then you can use a variety of things to cut your quesadilla. I myself prefer using a pizza cutter. We have a rolling pizza cutter. I'll just use this knife because this knife is right here. And again, that means I have less to wash later. This would be a little easier on a flatter surface if you want to cut your quesadilla on a cutting board first and then move it to the plate, you can. You can also cut it into smaller pieces. I generally do 4 pieces. I just have to push down. Notice how I put my hand on top of the knife blade for this. That way my fingers are completely out of the way as I'm giving quite a bit of force and pushing pretty hard right now. Awesome. Check that out. Cheesy, warm, delicious. Lots of vegetables that are good and healthy for you. And then you could blob a little bit of guacamole on the plate for yourself. You could do some sour cream. You could do some salsa, again, made out of tomatoes. Vegetable. Not very healthy, but remember, light or low-fat dairy products are going to be better for you. And that, my friends, is how you make a quesadilla. I hope you enjoyed.